Fellow auto detailers, welcome to the show that features interviews with today's most successful auto detailers. This is the Auto Detailing Podcast. Here's your host, Jimbo Balaam.
Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. I'm Jimbo, your host, and it feels good to be back in the mobile recording studio. Haven't done this for a while, now that I got a little studio space that I do everything in. But anyway, I'm back in the mobile recording studio, so it feels like home, right? Nice and warm and cozy. Anyway, today on this episode, what I want to talk about is the 3 tips or the 3 real secrets to have a successful detailing business. And this is a part of the webinar that Pete and I just did last week on Thursday. If you missed that, you could go to autodetailinglivestream.com and maybe the replay will be up by now. Not sure what we're doing with that. But anyway, these 3 secrets was one part of the webinar that we went through. The webinar, by the way, lasted like almost 2 hours. It was like an hour and 45 minutes. It was completely free, and if you missed it, you should be ashamed of yourself. Just kidding, not ashamed of yourself. But so what I wanted to bring you was these 3 secrets because I think it's very, very important. And so I'm just going to get right into it, not beat around the bush, because I don't want this to be like an incredibly long episode. But the secret number 1 is to only deal with people who want high value detailing services. Now, I'll say it again. Secret number 1, only deal with people who want high value detailing services. Now that seems obvious, right? Like, of course, I want like the cream of the crop people, blah, blah, blah. But our actions don't map to that, right? And I know this is true because 1, I'm totally guilty of it, right? Especially early on in my detailing business, totally guilty. Because to only deal with high-end people or high-value people, not necessarily high-end, just high value. I think that's a big distinction that we need to be careful to make. High-end does not mean high value. I've had multiple people with high-end cars that have 0 value on detailing, or very low value on detailing. So that's a big misconception also in the detailing space, is that high-end means high value. It does not. I've done Accords that people value higher than freaking Ferraris that people have. So that's a big distinction and a big misnomer that the internet doesn't help with when we see these guys doing high-end, quote-unquote, corrections, high-end cars. We think that they're getting high-end money, and I'll be the first to admit that's definitely not always true. But it's also evident that we aren't dealing with high-value people because of how I see people trying to market their detailing business on Facebook or on whatever, or even talking to them. They're blanketing neighborhoods or parking lots or whatever, and really just kind of have that mindset of anyone's a client, right? And when you have that mindset of anyone is your client, what you're really saying is no one is my client, because you don't know how to market to everyone. You can't market to everyone. It's impossible to market to everyone. And that's why you need to pick people that value detailing services, value detailing in general. So secret number 1 is only dealing with those people. And if you're not currently dealing with those people, you can take steps towards working with those people. So none of these secrets are meant to have you completely abandon your current detailing business and start implementing these right away. It's just start taking steps to implement these right away. So don't cut yourself short. You as a detailer probably value high quality products. You obviously have a really high value on your services. Why are you working for people that don't value your service? And so one of the most difficult things in a business can be getting rid of the people that don't value your service. And I've had to do that in the past, and it is, I'll admit, extremely difficult to fire those clients, which is what people like to say, right? Like, I fired my client. But it's a lot harder to actually do than to say. So, but again, secret number one, start working or only deal with. So if you have people that don't value your service now, start making it a point that your new clients have to value your service, see the value in your service, see the value in your time. And that's why when we talk about stuff like House Call Pro, when we talk about Auto Fiber, when I talk about different sponsors and products, it's so that you can gain confidence to see even more value in your service. And then through those sponsorships, you can show that value to your clients. So stuff like House Call Pro, when you're emailing them a really professional looking quote, when you text them that you're on your way, when you do those things that make you look professional, you stand out and clients start taking more value in your service because their frame of reference to you or how you look to them is much different. You're not just the normal run-of-the-mill detailer. You are a professional detailer, and therefore they start to value your service. So secret number two, I'm super glad that I mentioned House Call Pro, was because secret number two is proper follow-up will bring riches. And now us as detailers, because it's a very gritty startup kind of business, our professionalism sometimes will kind of sag, right? And part of being professional is not only giving accurate quotes and in a professional manner, right? Invoicing properly and taking payment professionally and all those things that are kind of fringe assets of a detailing business that people don't really think of. They just think of detailing a car, right? They don't think of stuff like invoicing properly, payment processing properly, and especially follow-up. And this is why I've been hounding about House Call Pro, which go to housecallpro.com/ADP, and that will get you a free demo and a discount and all that good stuff. But proper follow-up in the detailer inner circle, and this is one thing we talked about on the webinar, in the detailer inner circle, when we talk, you don't need House Call Pro to follow up with clients. You could literally rummage through your phone and just follow up with past clients. Just do it. And when we introduce this, even though it's not that crazy of a theory, in the detailer inner circle, the few people that took advantage of it automatically booked their schedule out. I'm telling you, it was crazy. They were shocked. I was kind of surprised because I'm like, whoa, people are actually taking action on what we talk about. But follow-up is huge. It's much easier to sell to someone that you've already sold to than to a new customer, right? And again, going back to the mistakes I've made in the past, what I see going on in Facebook land and Facebook groups is people are infatuated and obsessed with getting new clients as they continue to lose current clients. It's much easier to keep current clients than it is to reach new clients. It's also much cheaper. It's much cheaper to follow up with your current client and text them, or even a client maybe you haven't seen in 3, 6, 9, 12 months, than it is to find a new client and establish that trust and that professionalism and all that. And you also are dealing with, hopefully, someone who sees value in your service, which maybe they've just lost your number. Maybe they've lost your card. They don't know how to contact you. They forgot your name. whatever. So that's what proper follow-up will do. Now, what does proper follow-up look like? It could mean an email, a text, a call, a slide dial, a slide broadcast, whatever. And obviously, I take this to the next level, and I say, how do I automate that proper follow-up, right? So my automation follow-up, I'll kind of run through it with you like this, looks like it starts the second I'm done with the car, because I use the House Call Pro app. And the second I'm done with the car and in the House Call Pro app, I hit finish. That triggers an automated sequence, right? And I also have SMS conversations too, so I have them both kind of going on simultaneously. And my follow-up starts instantly, thanking the customer. When I say instantly, I mean literally as I'm driving away from the client's house, or after they pick up the car and they're driving away. And it thanks them for their business, and then asks for a review. And then 7 days later, that triggers an email thanking them again. If they have any questions, to ask us. If they're looking to set up another appointment, they could do that through a button in their email. And then I have, about 2 months later, I have it triggered another follow-up, and all the way through about 8 months after the initial service. Now, of course, if they get a service done within those 8 months, it will re-trigger that cycle. And so they won't get a haven't seen you in a long time email when in fact I saw them the week prior. So that's why it's important to have kind of a CRM going to manage all this for you. But all that follow-up to me is completely automated. I don't do anything other than set it up initially and then then input the customer information into my CRM or my CRM, or which is House Call Pro, or in my SMS conversations, which is offered through the Detailer Inner Circle, which you could see at detaileninnercircle.com. But I wanted to automate that because I was so bad at actually doing it. So I knew that I would never do it, right? I'm more focused on, either taking care of my current clients, getting new clients, whatever, that I don't follow up with my clients that I haven't seen in a month or 2 or 3 or whatever, or 6 months or whatever. But those clients can still be very profitable clients. So I knew that I had to automate that service or that system, or else I wouldn't do it at all. So that's why I have stuff like SMS conversations. That's why I have stuff like House Call Pro to do the work for me, because I'm also not going to hire someone to do that for me, because I don't put a high enough value on that, which I should, but I don't put a high enough value on a person doing it, but I put a high value on a system doing it, because it's significantly less expensive to run that system than it is to pay someone to do that for me. It's also more personable when my customers think it's coming from me, even though it's automated. They still think that I'm literally texting them, literally calling them. And through the Detailer Inner Circle and House Call Pro, you have 3 different ways, or maybe even more, to do this. You can call them and leave them a message without actually calling them and risking getting stuck on the phone. You can text them, or you can email them, and you can pretty much automate all those, or make it extremely time efficient and effective to do those. So, and secret number 3 is to become a celebrity in your market. And really what that means is you become the only logical choice to do business with, and you will dominate. So I've been on this high horse for a long time of put out content on YouTube, on Instagram, whatever. Becoming a celebrity is kind of a vague way of saying just be prevalent on social media, right? Do videos about the car that you just did. And guys, this is exactly what I've done. When I started the podcast, it was just, here's how I clean a rim. Here's how I deal with a customer that accused me of breaking an air vent. Here's how I did this. Here's how I did that. Just kind of documenting what I was doing. And then through that, and I would totally suggest YouTube, especially in your local market, and tag videos of your local market, because it helps with your Google SEO. It helps with your website ranking all around. But it also helps you become the trusted resource, right? So when you have that, and all these 3 secrets kind of go into one, is when you have that celebrity-like state, or that credibility where people can see what you're doing and they can see your work, it attracts those high-value customers, because a customer that puts a high value on detailing services is not just a tire kicker looking for the cheapest detailer to go through, right? So they're going to do a high-value client is going to do some investigation, is going to do some work, is going to do some research. They're not just going to go for the first, fastest, and cheapest detailer around, because they value it. So the price isn't their only concern. They want the best, not the cheapest, right? So if you're putting out content and you're showing customers what you're doing, how you're doing it, before and afters, whatever, and you're positioning yourself as that celebrity, as that best option, it is going to feed and get you high-value clients, which then you follow up with those high-value clients, and within a short amount of time, you have this epic circle of high-value clients that trust you, that value your service, that are paying a premium, And that, my friends, is what we're all after as detailing services. We don't want to deal with the tire kickers. We don't want to deal with the cheap people. Man, I'm getting fired up about this because I freaking love it, because I see everyone complaining on the interwebs about this kind of crap. And it is so simple to start fixing and to start implementing stuff in your business today. And if you know these 3 secrets, it will dramatically change your business. And that's why I'm so passionate about stuff like the Detailer Inner Circle, because we teach this, but we teach this times 10. And House Call Pro makes a lot of stuff, makes most of that stuff a lot easier to automate, so you can focus on stuff like your paint correction, your coatings, your whatever. But if we're attracting high-value clients, following up with them professionally and properly, and becoming a celebrity in our market, you are going to have a detailing business that is exploding. And of course, you have a CRM, you have a customer database in place. So you're also building an asset to sell. You're not just going to be another detailer that's selling equipment on Craigslist for $5,000. You're going to have a customer list, a customer database of high value customers that are spending a lot of money. So through that, you're creating an asset, a retirement plan that you can later sell at a later date if you want to. And boom, I freaking love it. I had no other plan for this podcast other than what I just did, and I feel like I spit out 16 minutes of complete fire, and you got to be out of your mind if you don't listen to this podcast. So I'm definitely putting a clickbait title on this podcast so that people actually listen to it, and I hope you implement it, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this. Of course, I'm at Jimbo Balaam across all social media platforms. Check out my YouTube. It's also freaking fire right now, and I'm getting really close to some really, really, really cool stuff on both the YouTube and the podcast. I'm really trying to utilize my space and be efficient and effective and profitable with the new studio space that I have. And so I'm trying to pump out more and more content. I hope you guys will follow along across all those platforms. I really, truly, the podcast, I will never, ever quit. Never even once have thought about it, actually, except for after the first year I did think about it. But then you guys were like, what happened to the podcast? What's up with that? So I value you guys who listen to the podcast and who have been longtime listeners of the podcast at the highest. You guys see high value in this podcast, and I see high value in you listening. And so I hope you guys are getting enjoyment out of these. Thanks for coming back into the mobile recording studio, and I will catch you guys on the next episode. See ya.